Thank
Yeah.
you for joining us today at Miniature Wargaming Labs, I'm James,
And I'm Brian.
and today we're both operating from our own unique bunkers where we're
Yep,
hunkered
live
down,
from quarantine.
which kicks off an interesting thing. Right now, we're going to start covering games that you can do in solo play. Now, a new game that came out
Yes.
and that Brian has actually tested is Zona Alpha. So, Brian, why don't you tell us who made Zona Alpha?
So Zona Alpha is an Osprey Blue Book game written by Patrick Todorov. I do believe I probably mispronounced that name completely,
Sounds
and
right
I'm
to
sorry
me.
for that. But it's a Osprey War Games Blue Book. So it's quality work. It's small. It fits in your library perfectly if you collect those kind of books.
Yeah, I
Another one of
personally
our
have a love of the Blue Book series, so I'll just put up my copy here. So I have it on
yeah,
the
my copy kind
digital.
of disappears. So
I've I've got the digital and the physical copy. Since I travel a lot, I can't start lugging the books around. But Brian, what the theme of the game? What is it? Because it is pretty different.
it is a very different game thematic wise. It's kind of post-apocalyptic, but not really post-apocalyptic. Soviet, Russian, nuclear wasteland kind of feel. So imagine there's zombies, there's irradiated dogs, there's mutants, there's wild packs of dogs and other things that come at you. I don't get the feeling from what you get of the fluff that it's post-apocalyptic. More like there's an apocalyptic area that everything's in, and you're going in there to collect things that you don't have on the outside of that. So
Yeah, I think when you start looking through it, there isn't actually that much fluff. There's just a containment zone. So
yes,
it feels kind of like if Chernobyl had a Stranger Things feel to it. So I would say that with the artwork and everything, it has a very much that 80s Soviet Union look, but it's that idea of like, what if Stranger Things happened in Russia?
yeah.
But they kept it within a containment zone where the Upside Down leaked in.
There's
But
zombies and
yeah, but it's like if the Soviets discovered it first and naturally get out of control. But yeah, it does. The artwork reflects that. But when you actually read the rules, we could actually set it anywhere. So I
oh
mean,
yeah,
here in Albuquerque, we've got Sandia, and up the road is Los Alamos. Who I know we've talked about setting a theme of where it's the national labs went wrong, and we could play through the Warrens of Albuquerque
yeah.
or your neighborhood.
Or my neighborhood. Yeah,
Yeah,
I have a nice neighborhood.
my neighborhood would be pretty boring in there. Row
Yeah.
houses.
I mean, I was even thinking like you could set this in like Centralia, where like it's been abandoned and like there's these mines that have been burnt out, and like that'd be like the perfect place. I mean, Centralia was kind of the influence for Silent Hill, so kind of has that creepy feel to it, where it's just like it's all abandoned, it's walled up, and you go in there to, you don't know what's in there.
One of the things I noticed is like when you look at the weapons loadouts. So we'll talk about that, but since it's miniature agnostic, looking at the weapons, I was looking at my bolt action guys and like flamethrowers, AK-47s. You could use bolt action armies, so you could actually do like Conflict 47,
Oh yeah.
where the idea is like the rifts have opened up in Los Alamos, but it's 1945 to 1947. So the way the guy structured the game is, yeah, he gave it a Russian Soviet tint to it, but you could really play this any time period with automatic weapons and flamethrowers. It's just got like a little hint of monsters running around.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah, I've
weird
been
history.
using Infinity miniatures. There's the Kaplan Tactical Service box for Infinity. works perfect. I mean, they have gas masks, they have backpacks. Nothing looks like extremely sci-fi about them. They just look like a tactical force, a modern tactical force. And so those are the miniatures that I've been using. Those and the Drew security forces. Both have like the gas mask and the backpacks and like the tactical gear. They don't look extremely sci-fi, but they also like they kind of fit into this world.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because I've been using the Spectre operations and the Anvil Industry.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'm still waiting for my hazmat Spectre operations team. So the guys
we're all waiting on hazmat suits right now.
I know. I put in a big order of those to bring them over here, but those came out right after Zona Alpha, but right before COVID. So they're caught in the upside down limbo right now.
Oh yeah.
But that brings it up. Good point. What do you need to play Zona Alpha? Besides
you're gonna need miniatures. The first time I played, we played with 5 miniatures for each side, and then I think you'll need anywhere from 5 to 7 miniatures for your guys. And then there's mutants. There's packs of dogs and other things like that. So you'll probably need a couple bogeys. So like we had 4 zombies and 8 dogs in our starting game. So I did not have any of those miniatures. I had 4 dogs, but I didn't have 8 dogs. So I had 4 dogs and 4 penguins, which was funny. But I mean, I had enough zombies and mutant things that I could put 4 out there. So just, of course, you need terrain. I use a lot of infinity terrain for this, but you could use pretty much anything. I mean, like I say with war games, whatever you got is the best. So if you got toilet paper and and paper towel rolls, use those. Go right ahead. And you're gonna need a couple D6s and a couple D10s.
Yeah, no, I put the 3D printers to work making little buildings for this that I originally planned for like African cities, but since they're so destroyed, they fit in with like Soviet theme or even some of the downtown Albuquerque, like the stuff along Route 66, Central Ave.
Yeah.
Some of the Art Deco buildings. So I started printing off those. But I think this is a good point because you could actually play Zona Alpha. I think, you said 7, but if you only have 5 guys, that just means you're going to skew them to the like, your veterans, a couple of rookies. So you could actually keep the model count, like 5 models on your side, which I enjoy because it's easy for me to travel with and there's less guys for you to control. But I think for the monsters, I've started looking at the Whiz Kids. So if you go into your store, you could head over, grab like a pack of Infinity guys, throw those down, and then just start snapping up WizKid models because those are what, $3?
Pack of zombies. You buy a pack of 2 zombies, buy 2 packs of 2 zombies, so they got 4 zombies there. You got some hellhounds that you could buy. Buy a couple of those.
That's exactly what I bought, the ghouls and the hellhounds.
Exactly.
Because I know what you represent it. Yeah, you know what I bought.
I saw your order history.
Well, all right. So, given that, who should play this game? So, where does it fit in the universe of games?
This game is kind of like perfect for me. And see, I don't really like military games. I don't like modern military. I don't really like the historical games. I'd like more sci-fi and fantasy games. This one kind of has that like sci-fi like touch. It's like a little drop of sci-fi into it, enough to where I'm like, oh, okay, this is a sci-fi game. My brain's like, oh, okay, this is not a historical or a modern warfare game. So if you're not into like actual modern warfare, or if you are in more modern warfare games and you kind of want a sci-fi touch to it, this is like the perfect mix of modern warfare meets a little tinge of sci-fi / horror / fantasy.
No, the So when I was going through it, the thing I liked about it is that I like Kill Team because of the individual model control. So
Yes.
but when you look at most people's definition of skirmish, so like Ultra Combat Normandy, um, Chain of Command, stuff like that, you're still controlling at a squad level, not an individual model. Um, but the thing with Kill Team is I don't know if I'd give that to a new player to play just because the way the rules are written. There's a lot of
Yes.
mistakes to be made there. Zona Alpha, and Reality's Edge I like, but that's one of the thick pack
That's a
books.
dense
Yeah.
book.
So there's not many rules. It's just the options. Zona Alpha is what I like about the blue books. So I look at this as like the modern combat version of Frostgrave, of where you have a really stripped down rule set to where you could give it to like a brand new player and turn them loose with it, and not have to worry about they would misunderstand what was going on.
Exactly. Now this is actually not like a great game to get somebody into like, oh, you like this game? Well, let's go and play Infinity, because that's like the next step up. It's more sci-fi. It's still. I mean, I've started playing war games with Infinity, which is you use each individual character has an activation. So this game was like right up my alley. I really like that instead of like the squad base games. So like this was right up my alley for that too. So that is a good point.
Well, I always try to look at like how can you walk someone up. So I look at like Frostgrave could walk you up to Age of Sigmar, and then on to Oathmark. We'll have to see how complicated that is. But some of the full range fantasy battle, Zona Alpha, I could see do Zona Alpha, then you do Code 1 when that comes out, and then you can do full Infinity. So Zona Alpha is like, I've been looking for something where you can play a skirmish game of where you can I could feel I could give it to anyone and they're ready for the first step in.
Warcry.
Well, but if you want, I'm just saying like there's the fantasy side, and then like people are like, well, I don't want fantasy. I want something.
I want guns.
Yeah, I want guns. So on the gun sides, I see Zona Alpha, and on the fantasy side, I see Frostgrave. Both Osprey Games Blue Book series. Yeah,
concise rules. That's the name of the game when it comes to this. It's just like small book. Here's a $20 book, and all you need to you pick out your miniatures. No one's going to tell you that you need this exact miniature for this exact thing. If you like this miniature from this company, go do it. That's the great thing about the blue books and the miniature neutral systems is that you get full control, and it's really concise and easy to read.
So, knowing that, how do the game mechanics work in this?
So it's a D6 system. The most you're going to be rolling is a 2d6, and so you'll have a target number, and you're trying to roll under it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's a low roll. It's a low roll game.
Yeah, you're trying to roll under your target number. It's a really simple system. The D10 only comes in when you're like throwing grenades or throwing different things. You roll the D10, and whatever way it's pointing is the way it scatters. And then whatever number's showing up is how far it goes. Of course, the D10, there's charts and everything that you can roll a D10 on, but mostly you're just going to be using a 2d6 system.
That is my one complaint about the game, is about the rule book. Very tightly written, but there isn't actually a sentence on there of how to make a check. So when you read it, the guy explains make checks, and then he gives examples of making checks, but there's not actually a sentence of this is a check and this is how you make it. You have to like read the examples and like reverse engineer that. So I think there's been like
little extrapolation that you have to do.
That's the only flaw I found in it. And I think that was probably just an oversight because, if you've been doing this long enough, you know what a check is. Okay, it's a low check or a high check. So, okay, this is a low check game. So what are some of the unique features of this game?
Like I was going on about the D10 and the dispersion rules. I think that's amazing. Like as soon as I read that, I was just like, man, I want to throw grenades everywhere now. I
You know,
really
something that
like
gets
the
that's something that gets underplayed in Reality's Edge because they buried it in the back of the book, like the grenade
yes.
rules.
I mean, exactly. Like grenades are fun. I mean, because especially if you have dispersion rules. Oh, I threw it this way and it ended up behind me. Okay. Another thing I really like is the AI and how that interacts. So you'll have your turn, and then the opponent will have their turn, and then the AI will have a turn. But some of the AI doesn't interact until activate until you're within a certain range of them. So depending on how they're set up in the table and where you have to go will change how they react to you. I really like that. I also really like how you build characters. It is a little more in depth than some other games because there's no like profiles. You actually have to build individual characters each.
Yeah,
So it's like you start with the rookie, and like you have access to only certain things, so you just build the rookies, and then as you go on, you can make them into veterans. Or you can start with veterans if you want a low miniature count.
yeah, that's the thing. It's not the character creation isn't as involved as Reality's Edge,
Yes,
which is almost up to the level of like making a D&D character.
it pretty much
Um,
is.
you know, with the options on your cyborg and like what loadouts you're going to do, since this simplifies of like, you know, leader, veteran, rookie, and you're right, you can
Yes,
walk them up over time. But you know, that's the thing is like what the only thing that really distinguishes them how many activations they can do per game, like
yes.
3, 2, 1, rookies get 1, leaders get 3. So that makes it really simple to keep track of.
Yeah, and I mean it. I mean your activations are super simple. I mean you have like move, shoot, activate, interact, things like that. I mean it's very concise game, which makes it really accessible, and that's what I really like about it. I'm trying to get some other people into this game, and like the guy that I played with right away, he was just like, "This game is amazing,"
Yeah,
just
no,
because it's so simple and concise.
no. One of the reasons I wanted to cover this game while we're in our respective bunkers is that this is one like we talked about. Okay, 5 guys, get some of your whiz kid monsters. Those will fill in for whatever you've got on the table. Um, you can buy the PDF right now since most of the friendly local game stores are bottled up, but they have free solo rules for this, and that's because they made the AI so powerful. So it's like
Yes.
what the PDF is, what, $15 or less. The solo rules are for free.
Yeah.
So it's a solo game ready to go.
Which is like I like as soon as I like started playing this game, I was like, wow, the AI is really intuitive. Depending on how the table's set up, so I mean, you could really do a really cool solo game. And then as like that was like 2 weeks before everything went down, and now it's just like, hey, there's the solo rules. So I was like, that makes sense.
I'll give it to the author. He turned that around pretty quick.
It was a
I
pretty
think I
easy
think he's
turnaround because I mean, it's already pretty much set up in there.
yeah. I think like Reality's Edge, you could kind of shoehorn into a solo play, but there was very few modifications he had to make this solo play. I mean, if you
Oh
think
yeah,
about it, you just make the hot zones really close to each other, and there you're done. I mean, anywhere you
exactly.
walk on the board, zombies will be coming out at you.
Yep, exactly.
So let's talk about, since this is the big difference between blue books and like the big books of war games at Games Workshop. I mean, Osprey Games. We'll edit that out.
Yes.
uh, how is gameplay organized? Did you feel that this was more the drop-in skirmish game, like the real simple game, or did you think that this was a campaign oriented book?
um, Honestly, it's one of those games that could go either way. I had enough fun just building a couple characters and then throwing them into a drop-in game to where it's like, okay, you start with 2 veterans, 1 leader, and like 2 rookies, and both of us have the same thing, and then we're both trying to get to the middle. Or you could do a campaign. I think it's one of those games that goes really really well both ways. It's definitely one of those games that you can sit down and it's like, hey, I want to play one game of this week, and then next week we're going to play something else. It's like, oh, or this month let's play a Zona Alpha campaign. Let's try and get all the way from Camp A to Camp D on this map.
Well, let me ask you, do you think Zona Alpha is good as an in-between game? So we did that with Combat Arena, of where you like have your lunchtime games, and then before, that takes 2 hours, and before like the afternoon, evening games start, you have 30, 45 minutes. Do you think Zona Alpha could be one of those drop
It's
games?
about an hour and a half to 2 hour game, so I'd say no. This is definitely one of those games where you sit down and you're like, all right, this is the game we're going to play tonight.
Okay.
This is the main game we're going to play tonight. I could see it going about an hour at the least. So that doesn't really fit like the 30 to 45 minutes. But an hour, I mean, it's also one of those games where the more terrain you have, the better the game is.
Because this is on a 3x3, right?
It's on a 3x3, so it is a bit smaller. But I mean, the more terrain you have, the more variability that you will have in gameplay. You'll be able to get higher or like get into buildings and stuff like that. So I do suggest that you have more. But the more the terrain you have, the longer it's going to take, because it's like, okay, now I'm hiding, and now I'm behind cover, and you can't shoot me because I'm sneaking around everything. So it just lasts longer. And see, that's one of the big things like with Infinity is like the more dense the board, the better the game is, but the longer it takes.
Well, let me ask you, that's because this game's tapped at 8 rounds, right? Not like
Yes.
Okay. So on a 3x3, do you think you could shorten the rounds? And
I don't know. Well, so it took 7 rounds our first game, and it took about an hour and a half for that, not including setup and takedown. It really felt like a full game. The only reason it lasted 7 rounds is because there was only one person remaining. There was only one model up. So it can be a quick game, but I also see it as a better game that it'd be your main game of the night.
all right. So let me ask you, we've talked a little bit about assembling the gang. So how's a gang organized, or how do you build your zone team?
You'll need a leader. The first time we played, we chose, we're just like, we're going to do 5 veterans or 4 veterans and 1 leader. And that's what we chose. Because we were going through, and that was pretty much about the where it was at as like points wise.
Okay. I don't know if for the 5 veterans and a leader, you probably went almost double the allowable gang size on there.
Maybe that's why it was so quick. I mean, we were just like, oh yeah, my skill's like super good.
Yeah.
We were rolling real. I mean, that was just our test. I mean, like we planned on playing this game a lot more in the last couple weeks, but
Yeah, because I got back and we were supposed to be playing, and then as soon as I got back, everything was locked up.
Exactly. Yeah.
I didn't have time to pick up my book, and that was about it.
And that was it. So I really, I think you start off with like 2 rookies and a leader, and you grow those rookies into veterans. I think you could also start with a veteran, but really just so campaign wise, start low, and then. But if you're playing like a game, as long as everybody's like at the same amount, but I don't see going over 7 miniatures as a fun game. So keeping it low model count, but fair on both sides. Really, there's a lot of flexibility on how you can build your lists.
So one of the things we mentioned is that leader gets 3 activations, veterans get 2 activations, rookies get 1. But that also corresponds to how many equipment slots they can have. So like a leader can have 3 equipment slots, veterans have 2, rookies have 1.
Yeah.
How much did you feel like you could actually customize your game? So like if you built it the standard way, you've got to have that balance between having a small elite force or like a horde of rookies going around. How did you feel that you could customize the loadouts of each one of your people?
There's actually a lot of customizability in this game, which is what I really like. As your leader, like your leader has the most ability to be customized. But I mean, if you're a rookie, that means you're not trained on different equipment, so you can't take different equipment. You have what you're trained on. So it really feels like this game has a lot that you can add to. So you could, if you do have a lot of rookies, you like, okay, these three have grenades. These guys have the handguns. These guys have the long range. Stand in formation and make your way through. And then you have like, if you have like your small elite force, then you're just like, okay, you're the close rangers. You're the far rangers. You all have grenades. So if things get in, you just start throwing grenades. The amount of different equipment that you can add to them is pretty cool.
So let's talk a little bit about the campaign system, because I think that's something, this does have one in the back.
Yes.
Looking at what did you think of the campaign system? Like, do you see the potential for runaway campaigns? Because that's like my big focus is, can it be like second edition Necromunda or Frostgrave, where like a single wizard is a necromancer and runs away with the whole game?
So I do think that this game is balanced, and you won't see that happen because it is very easy. So there's not like health. So you only have, if you get shot, you're down, and if you don't have a medic, you'll roll on the chart at the end of the game. That's the one thing. Like if you don't have a medic and your one person gets hit, they're down. There's no 2 wounds or 3 wound models. It's just you get shot, you're down. So in that sense, everything's deadly. So you get hit once, you're down, and that goes for everyone. So it really keeps that balance well. So a rookie can take out a leader just as well as a leader can take out a rookie.
No,
a dog can take out a rookie and anyone else. The lethalness of the system really adds to the balance.
No, I think that's a good point, because bullets hurt. And I think this game really captures the fact that, just because you've been around for a while doesn't mean bullets hurt you less.
Exactly. It just means they hit you less.
Well, that's why you take the equipment slot for armor on your veterans there, but maybe not your rookies, because they don't have the slots for it. You got to protect that veteran, because he might have more actions, he might be able to carry more stuff, but he's only really as survivable as a rookie. Yeah,
exactly. And then you'll always want a medic, and so you'll want to protect your medic too. Because if you don't have anybody that can do medicine, then you get shot, your guy's down, and then you're done.
Well, it brings up that point that like every person on the team is important, because you need like the bomb disposal guy, you need the medic, you need the sniper, you need the guy to carry the flamethrower, and then the leader. And so you got to do that resource management of balancing out your team with the what do they call them, zone credits that you're going to accrue over the campaign. So let me ask you, what did you think of the scenarios included in the book? Because it's not exactly a huge section of the book.
It's not a huge section, but from what you're given, you could take an element from each one and make a new scenario. What he did in the book is you could see how he does scenarios. Instead of just like having 20 scenarios, which is really cool, he did it so that it's like, okay, if you go through each scenario, you kind of learn how the scenarios are set up and how they're best played in the game. So I think that they're just really good examples on what, instead of like just playing those ones, they're really good examples on what to do and how to make your own games in the future.
What would you say this game is missing?
I'd say more scenarios. I think more elements. I think like a really good expansion of this game. So this as a book, I think is really good because it's clean, concise, and has everything you need. A good way to expand on the game would be a campaign book. That also adds some more equipment. Also more classes. So like expand on the rookie, the veteran, and the leader.
Well, he has those Russian terms for them, and I can never.
Oh no, I can't
memorize those. So that's a good point. Where do you hope this game goes? Because we know with like the hardback books, like Ragnarok has done a great job of coming out with the core book, and then almost every quarter. So almost down to like what Games Workshop does. They came out with Vanir, and then Abyss is coming up at the end of the month here. Maybe at least electronically.
At least yes. Maybe not physically, but if they don't add anything to this game, it's a really good game. If they add other things to this game, it'd be a really good game. So this is one of those games that I could see not being expanded, but also very expandable. So if I were to wish something, I would see, more sci-fi, like a big creature. It's like, oh, we're going into the middle of the radiated wastes, and oh, there's a super mutant.
You want to use your Cthulhu?
Like yeah, exactly. Something that like expands on that, or a full like campaign book. It's like, okay, this is actually a map of the radiated area, and you're going from quadrant to quadrant, and you're clearing out things.
I can see that in campaign system because GW's done that with some of their like Vigilus, Ablaze, but that was for like the full army.
Exactly. Yeah.
I could see that. Well, that'd be more like Necromunda when they do the competition for the rackets. When they go there and like you're trying to seize this racket, you want to seize this piece of the criminal enterprise. I could see that you're exploring the zone because you want to seize this piece of equipment or that lost artifact.
Exactly. It's like, hey, there's this computer there that has this information on it, and you need to get that before anybody else realizes that's there because this has all the fail-safes on it. So,
all right, so let's wrap up with the final two questions we already asked. So this is the elevator pitch. Why should you play this game?
You should play this game if you like modern warfare with a sci-fi twist, and you like if you're getting into either of those types of games, or if you just want a fun, simple game that you could get into with a couple friends that is miniature agnostic and not super expensive to get into because it is a $20 book and it fits perfectly on a shelf.
All right, so let's cap this up with why shouldn't you play this game?
If you're a diehard fantasy fan that doesn't play anything other than fantasy, then this game just doesn't hit any of those marks. If you don't like D6 systems, because I know some people that don't like D6 systems, and that's all right. So that's another downfall. Other than that, I have more reasons to play this game than not to play this game. So,
well, I think it's not going to be one that you'll play every day for the rest of your life. I don't see it developing a BattleTech cult-like following. But I could see this as being on the shelf of like, well, why not?
Exactly. It's like, hey, we haven't played this in a while. Let's pull this out.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for this episode of We Discuss Zona Alpha. I'm James.
I'm Brian.
And we'll see you next time.
All right. Be safe, everyone.